All right, everybody. Hello, this is Danny Brown, and welcome to Globalization and Culture 1. Today is day 3. Please remember to get a piece of paper and get you a pencil and take notes. Today, at the end of our class, I'll give you a small quiz based on what you hear today. So take notes, and then you have a midterm exam where you will have to use your notes to take the exam, to study for the exam, and then take the exam. All right, here we go. We're going to start today talking about sports. Now, here we go. There's a saying in America, I play to win. There's another saying, work hard, play hard. When many Americans play very intensely means strongly with focus. And when I was a child, if we played sports and if I made a mistake, my friends got very angry at me, not very angry, but angry. And there was pressure to win. And we often played team sports at playtime. The most popular boys were the natural leaders, and the leaders would pick the teams. Okay, you for this team, you for this team. They'd pick the best players first and the worst players last. In first and second grade, I was one of the last. In 6th and 7th grade, I was one of the first. Yay. Everyone wanted to win. It depends on how good you were. And if a person made a mistake, people would scold you. Now, I was shocked when I first came to Japan and I saw people playing basketball at Kosei Sports Park. They're like, dun, 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 dun. Oh, nice shot, good shot. And I thought, huh? They were so nice and they were so relaxed. Now, many Japanese are really focused on winning. I know that. We cannot stereotype or prejudice and say that Japanese don't care if they win. Many Japanese do care. But there is a very strong focus in American culture to win. And I think more Americans are concerned about winning. And it's a very important thing for them. I play to win. So if a group of friends are going to get together, sometimes one of the men will look at the other men and say, I play to win. And it means don't fool around, play hard, and let's win this. And work hard, play hard. Okay, you go to work and you work very hard for your company. Now when you come home and it's time to play hard and try to win. And that's in my culture. Now let's look at the sports in America. Here we have a view of the favorite sports in America. Now here in this column, we have all adults, okay? And you can see that the #1 favorite sport in America for all adults is football. 34% of Americans like football best. 14% of Americans like basketball best. 13% like baseball best. So that's 30, 40, 50, 61% of all Americans like these 3 best. Now the rest of the Americans are spread among these. 12% have no favorite sport. But notice that we have whites, blacks, and Hispanics. Now there are also Asians, and I'm sorry that Asians are not included in this. About 5% of Americans are Asian American. But among the whites, 37% of whites prefer football as their favorite sport. Among blacks, 35% prefer football, almost the same, a little lower. Hispanics, 21%, they're the lowest, but still football, American football is very popular among Hispanics. And by the way, you remember the word Hispanic? Do you know that word? Okay, Hispanic means anyone from a Spanish-speaking country or a Portuguese-speaking country. So South Americans and Mexicans who come to America and become Americans they are called Hispanic. So are people from the island of Puerto Rico. They're Hispanic. Now, blacks are from Africa. Their fathers and ancestors are from Africa. Whites, their ancestors are from Europe. The word whites is not a bad word. It's an okay word. I'm a white. The word black is not a bad word. I say to my friend, oh, you're black and I'm white. Hispanic is not a bad word. Now notice that whites, black, and Hispanics have a different idea about football. Also basketball. All adults in America, 14% like basketball best. Only 12% of the whites like basketball best. But look at the blacks here, 31%. Why would 31% of the blacks like basketball best and only 9% of the Hispanics and 12% of the whites? Well, today I have no explanation for what today's current state is, but this happened in history. You have to remember that the whites and the blacks and the Hispanics have a different history. Now, the whites had a lot of power in America. They still have a lot of power and money. But many years ago, the whites had very expensive schools, and they had a lot of expensive equipment for sports. And football, American football, is very expensive, and it requires many, many uniforms and expensive helmets and so many things. And the whites could afford this. But the blacks, they got less expensive schools. They were put in a different school. This is the black school. They had less money, old furniture, and not money for expensive sports. So the blacks in history, they focused more on basketball, whereas the whites had more money and focused on football. Now, blacks and whites and Hispanics have equal chance, and they all go to the same high schools, basically. There may be high schools with more whites or more blacks, but they have freedom to go to whatever high school they live near. And now this has changed a bit, and football has become more popular among blacks than basketball. However, the Hispanics are 21% like football, 9% like basketball, 15% baseball. But look at the Hispanics, 24% of Hispanics like soccer. Why? Well, the Hispanics have come from Spanish-speaking and Portuguese-speaking countries where soccer is very popular. And their families have a custom and a culture, family culture, of watching soccer. And so they come to America, and many of them fall in love with American football and baseball, but many of them keep their love for soccer because of their families. And so culture is always from history, and there's always mixes, and you can see a mix. The blacks mixing, and they like both football and baseball now. The Hispanics really liking football, but also keeping that old historical love for soccer in their families. And so there is a division between whites, blacks, and Hispanics and the things that they like. All right, let's see. Now, you can write down these statistics if you want to write down these numbers. If you want to write down these numbers, especially for football, basketball, baseball, and soccer, you can write down those numbers. The rest of the sports, don't worry about it. Okay, now let's talk about, all right, let's continue on. We're going to talk about baseball. Just a second here. All right, we're going to talk about baseball. Now, okay, let's stop that for a sec. All right, now we're going to talk about baseball. There's Ichiro Suzuki. I believe he's retired now, but he came from Japan and played baseball in America. I think the Japanese know American baseball very well, and I don't need to teach you the rules of baseball. But I'm going to talk about the different culture between Japanese and American baseball and how different people play that game. So let's look and see if we can learn something about culture through baseball. All right. Here we have team culture in baseball, Japanese versus American. Now, Japanese high schools and American high schools, when they play baseball, they, of course, play the same game, but they think differently and have different goals in mind. For the Japanese high school, there's a focus on the group and they do things together. Now, what I'm teaching you is based on research, not simply my personal opinion, but on research. In the American high school, there's more of a focus on the individual, okay? Each individual helps the team. So the individuals are important, but it's individual that's important in baseball for American baseball. Okay, so for example, you can see in Japanese high schools, the players are often together. They're doing the same thing at the same time. Everybody together, whoop, together, whoop, together, whoop. And there's a lot of hey, hey, hey at the same time. And it shows group togetherness. In Americans, there is not group togetherness. The group joins together to win, but when they're practicing, each individual is stronger if he focuses on himself and his abilities. That's American thought. Also, the Americans do not usually wear uniforms. Now here's a uniform here, and sometimes they do wear uniforms, but if you look back here, no uniforms. Everybody has a different shirt, different hat, different pants. The Japanese would be more likely to have uniforms to show sameness. But the Americans might wear uniforms, but they probably usually do not wear uniforms when they're practicing, only in the games. Okay, now also the Japanese will focus on time. That means spend time with the team. And the Japanese high school baseball team really is a club. The purpose is to have a fun time and be with your friends. The American high school, it has a focus on using time carefully, effectively. They only practice as much as they need and then they go home. They're not hanging around spending hours just because they're friends. Of course they're friends, but they want to work hard, and when they're finished working hard on baseball, finished. Go home and let's play some game or do something else with my friends. So the high school team in America is less of a club and more of a team focused on winning. Whereas the high school wants to win, absolutely. And some Japanese high schools go crazy over winning, okay, I know that. But for many of the Japanese students, it's more of a fun friendship time. Now, for the Japanese high school, success comes from hard work. And failure is a result of not working hard enough. Maybe that seems strange to you. Maybe you think, of course. But for Americans, success comes from a person's natural ability and hard work. Failure might come because you weren't born with enough talent. So we say, if you're a born natural player, you can go high. But if you were not born with talent, forget it. Just quit. Do something else. And we believe that a person has a certain ability that they can reach, and they can work hard and work hard and work hard, and then they reach their highest ability and they can never get higher because they were born with that ability. Okay, Japanese believe that if you work hard, you can always get better and better and better. And so because of this, the Japanese tend to spend more time practicing because they feel they can always get better. And the Americans feel like, no, we've practiced enough. We've reached our highest. That's enough. Stop practicing. So also the Japanese high school team, it's a club and a team. The Americans are more of a team. The Japanese have short hair. For the Americans, all hair is okay. We don't need to be the same. For the Japanese, you use uniforms in practice. The Americans use no uniforms in practice. Now, the Japanese high school are led by students and the teacher. The students, the upper level students, guide the lower level students. This might surprise you, but in American teams, the higher level students do not guide the lower level students. Only teachers coach the students. And so the Japanese are more student-led, and that's pretty common. Americans always have professionals be the leaders. Japanese will share leadership. Now for practice, the Japanese practice is usually long and severe, many repetitions, condition the body. The Americans do not want long and severe. We think that if you practice long and severe, you might hurt yourself. You might make yourself too tired. So we want to do a short practice, but we want every minute to be very carefully practiced so it's effective. The Japanese want to do many repetitions, many. The Americans want to do few repetitions, but they want to do it correctly. The Japanese want to condition the body, and so they're going to do push-ups, like, you know, push-ups, okay? All together, and they're going to run for a long time. The Americans are not going to do many repetitions, and they're not going to condition their body. We want the body to be in good condition, but we feel that if you spend too much time doing that, you make yourself exhausted, and you can't really focus on your technique. We would rather focus on technique. Technique is the special way that you play baseball, the special way that you do something. And so we focus on technique, not exercising the body. And finally, Japanese play timing and small plays. They want to think about, should I make a home run or should I hit a short ball? Which is better? And they think very carefully about strategies. Americans, they just want to make a home run, hit the ball hard, go, play big, play strong. And so the Japanese are very careful about thinking of their strategies, and the Americans just want to use power and hit big, make a home run every time if they can. All right. Now, many professional baseball players have written magazine articles comparing American practices to Japanese practices. And we can compare these. And the Japanese baseball players who come to America, they're surprised. They're surprised that Americans don't practice much. They're like, when do you practice? And the American baseball players who come to Japan are surprised that Japanese practice so long. They think, oh, you have no life. You just run all the time. I hate my life, and I'm going back to America. So it's a struggle between those two cultures and how they view how to practice. All right, Japanese high school research on Japanese high school baseball. 270 Japanese professional baseball players were asked in high school every week, how many hours did your team practice baseball? What do you think? How many hours every week do you think that the Japanese professional players practiced? The answer, Monday through Friday, 4.5 hours a day. Wow, that's during school. They have school, and after school, they practice 4.5 hours a day. And on Saturday and Sunday, 7.3 hours every day, Saturday and Sunday. That's like a full-time job. That's 37.1 hours per week that the Japanese high school students practice. Very long. Japanese high school practice, internet research. They asked how you practiced. All right, the average, many practiced 4 hours. That was the most usual. How long did you practice every day? Most high school baseball players in Japan said we practice 4 hours. Some of them said we practiced 3 hours, but less. Some said 3.5 hours, and some said 5 hours. Maybe these 5 hours, they're the special high-level baseball schools. But the most common was 4 hours, and you can see that that's a very high amount of practice, okay? And a few practice only 2.5 hours at baseball. That's because they had to share the field with the soccer players, and they didn't have a big enough field for 2 different fields. Okay, there it is. They usually had to share the field with other clubs. Now the average is 3.6 hours Monday through Friday. Okay. These times do not include Saturday and Sunday, so we don't know Saturday and Sunday. Okay. Now, if students practice 6 to 7 hours on Saturday, maybe 6 to 7 hours Sunday, maybe, that would be 1 week average of 31 hours. Wow. Okay, now this is America. I don't have statistics for all of America, but I did find statistics for different states. Colorado, there is a law. You cannot practice more than 14 hours a week. You cannot. The law says no. Texas, up to 21 hours. That's all. Kentucky, 14 hours a week of baseball practice. No more. Utah, 20. California, 18. So that's quite different than Japan, where they're practicing 30, 31, 32 hours a week. Okay, the average is 17.4 hours per week. That's about half, almost half, a little over half of the Japanese practice. And it's because of our culture, the way we view. We think you're born with talent, you work hard, but then you can't keep working. It won't help you. All right, America averages 17.4 hours a week. Japan averages 31 hours per week. Many Americans have an idea that we're born with talent, some very talented, some very weakly talented. The idea of inborn talent is very important to Americans. You can practice hard till you reach your highest level for your talent, but when you reach your high point, you cannot go higher. More practice does not help. That is my culture. Many Japanese people believe you're born with talent, but the most important thing is not talent. The most important thing is hard work. So if you practice more, Japanese believe you can always improve. So we practice, practice, practice. All right. There's some Americans practicing. There's the Japanese practicing their body conditioning. Okay. All right, we're going to stop for just a minute here. All right, so we've talked a little bit about baseball and how we can see differences in culture among how baseball is played. Let's continue. We're going to talk now about basketball. Just a minute here. All right, so basketball was created in America. It was created by a man named James Naismith. Okay, here's a picture of him. He's got his suit on and his basketball. He worked for a group called the YMCA. Let's see. Basketball was created in 1891. Please write this date down. Write this down, 1891, by James Naismith in America. Naismith was from Canada, but he moved to America and he worked in the YMCA. What is the YMCA? There's a favorite song, YMCA, da, 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 YMCA. Do you know that song? Okay, the YMCA is the Young Men's Christian Association, a club for young men to keep them from bad places, to keep them from getting into moral trouble. Now, Mr. Naismith here, there he is with his basketball. He was concerned about the young men. They needed a game they could play inside because outside in the north, it snowed so much that they couldn't play games outside when it snowed. And so Mr. Naismith got the idea. He took a basket. Do you see this basket here? This first basket for basketball was a peach basket. They pick peaches and they put the peaches in the basket. So he took a peach basket and he put it above the door and he took a ball and he threw the ball into the basket. And he made rules for how you could play basketball. And his boys played basketball and they really liked it. They liked it a lot. And it was difficult because every time they made a basket, they made a point, they had to get a chair and reach up into the basket and take the ball out because it was a basket. So Mr. Naismith cut a hole in the bottom of the basket, and now when they threw the ball, it went through and it was easy to get the ball again. And this was the first original basketball. It became very popular, and you can see he looks very proud that he created the game of basketball. Well, basketball is very important in America. Every high school has a basketball team. Many children have basketball goals. When I was a child, I would say about 50% of all houses, maybe 60%, had a basketball goal. My house had a basketball goal. Friends would go to each other's house and play basketball. It was a very popular game. But now with the computers and computer games, outside sports is becoming less popular. Now in teams in America and teams in Japan, they're different. As I told you before, in Japan, the older students control the team and train the younger students. Japanese clubs are controlled by students. But they also relax and they talk because it's a club. The American teams are run by the teachers, and they're very strict, and they have to work all the time. And as soon as practice is over, the boys go, because it's more of a team for winning and less of a club. American boys are quite good at basketball, quite good. NBA, I talked to you earlier about blacks preferring basketball, how that blacks really play a lot of basketball. Well, this is true. In 2015, the NBA, National Basketball Association, that's America's basketball, professional basketball, 74.4% were black players, 23.3% white players, 1.8% Latino. Latino is Hispanic, 1.8%, and 0.2% Asian. There are some good Asian basketball players, but in America, it's more popular among the blacks, okay? Okay, just a minute here. All right, so we can see the popularity of basketball among black players, but remember that American football is still more popular among blacks than basketball. And we want to be careful not to stereotype. Many black men do not like basketball, so don't think that all blacks like basketball. All right, watch the following basketball video. This is a high school. Oh, I told you. This is okay. Let's watch.
Cross court. David Ives base lead by Devin Peterson, 16. Ball kept alive. High arcing, floating. Jump shot. Create a turnover. Gets it back. Throws it down.
Okay, are these professional players, do you think? NBA? Are they college players?
Throws it down. Nice crossover move. Going to the basket. Pull up jumper. 16. But interception. Out on the break. Fuller lays it up. Missed it. He's on the break.
All right. These amazing players are high school players. The level of their playing is quite high, right? Because these guys play day and night. They just love basketball, and they just play it all the time. People play basketball in high school and communities. Many of them love it so much that they keep playing as adults. They just keep playing, and they never stop. And so they form clubs. There are basketball clubs, and some of these guys just play all the time. These are not professionals. These are guys who just work, and they come home and they play basketball at night because they just love it so much, okay? They're really amazing. Basketball is greatly loved in America, especially among the black community, but also among the whites, Hispanics, and others. These guys are great. That is exciting. Okay. Now, American football, actually, I usually teach a lot. I teach a lot about American football, but we have only 12 weeks this year. Um, we have only 12 weeks, and we are not going to be able to uh, teach much about football. I usually teach a whole like hour or more and test you over it. But today we just don't have time because we only have 12 weeks. It's a very beautiful sport. Have you ever watched a football game? Okay. This man on the left is football. Originally, I will talk about football briefly. Please take your notes. It came from a game called rugby. In 1823, rugby was created by Rugby Boys School. Rugby Boys School in 1823. That's important. But at college, many of the students played different ball games. There were many different games using a ball. And so in 1867, Princeton University wrote some rules and they called the game football. So they changed rugby into a different game called football. And in 1869, that's an important date. In 1869, Princeton College and Rutgers University played the first football game. And so football really was created in college by college players. Football is America's favorite game, but most Japanese don't know how to play football. It's my favorite sport. I played football age 11, 12, 13, and 14. But age 14, I stopped growing. And the other guys just kept getting taller and taller. And I couldn't play because they were so big. They knocked me down and I couldn't play anymore. And I was so sad because I really loved to play football. It's America's #1 sport. Super Bowl is excuse me, at football, you have a season. And at the end of the season, you play the final championship game. And the final championship game is called the Super Bowl. SUPERBOWL. The Super Bowl is the name of the last championship game. The Super Bowl is so popular in the world. It is not as popular as the World Cup soccer. But, oh, there we go. Beautiful pictures there. Oh, just a second. So the Super Bowl is one of the most watched games in the world. You may never have seen a Super Bowl. You might think, what? But look at this. Here is soccer. In 2010, the World Cup soccer had 531 million people watching it. 2014, 562. When it was in Russia in 2018, 517 million people. Now, the Super Bowl is not as much. It's not as popular, but you've probably never even seen a Super Bowl. And in the world, 160 million people watched the Super Bowl in 2019. Super Bowl is one of the most watched games in the world. It also creates the most money. Look, this is World Cup. Total World Cup in 2010 made 3.64 billion dollars, $3.6 billion. In 2014, 4.3 billion. 2018, $5.4 billion. Look how much American football made. 8, 11, $14 billion. That's almost 3 times the money that World Cup soccer made. A lot of money. There's a lot of money in American football. Okay, it's a beautiful game. Not always beautiful, but it's a very expensive game. It requires a very large field, like a soccer field, a lot of equipment, 11 players on each team. Very beautiful game, but we don't have time today, and we will not study about football this year. All right, now I'm from Texas, and now I'm going to teach you a sport that is very popular in Texas and the southwestern United States, also Mexico and South America. It's a very powerful game, very dangerous game. I hope that you'll enjoy this. I want to teach you today a little bit about rodeo. Now, rodeo is a cowboys game. In rodeo, the cowboys many years ago would get together and have a kind of a contest to see who's the best cowboy. And from these cowboy contests, they practiced and made a lot of money on rodeo. Now, rodeo has 5 basic events, 5 of them. This one here that you look at, this is bull riding. Bull riding. Okay. Next, we have bronc riding. Bronc riding. That's number 2. Number 3 is called calf roping. Calf roping. And number 4 is steer wrestling. Steer wrestling. And number 5 is barrel racing. Barrel racing. Are you struggling a little bit with some of this vocabulary? Let's stop for a minute and I'm going to show you some vocabulary. All right, here's some vocabulary for you. Here we have event. Event, a sports event is like play baseball, play basketball. Each of those is an event. In rodeo, there are 5 events. Okay. Number 2, bull. A bull is a cow, but it is a male cow, a man cow. All right. Bulls have big horns and they want to kill you. They're very mean, very angry. Number 3, calf. A calf is a young cow, a baby cow. Number 4, a steer. A steer is a cow that has had its how do I say this? It was a man cow. They cut the man cow. Oh, now I can't have babies. Okay, the man cow cannot have babies anymore. That is a steer. Why do they make steers? Because a bull is very angry. And when they cut the bull so he cannot have babies, he loses some of his anger and he's easier to control. And so that is a steer. Please learn this. Rope, rope. I think you know rope. Rope is himo, long rope. Wrestling, wrestling. Barrel, there's a picture of a barrel. Fence, fence, Japanese say fensu. Shoulder is kata, your shoulder. Release, to release. Go, you can go free, to release. On its side, okay? So here is my dog, and my dog lies on its side, okay? On its side. Second is byo. In our rodeo, 8 seconds is very important, 8 seconds. Number 13, get hurt, get injured, kego suru. We don't want to get injured in rodeo, but that happens a lot. Fall off. You fall off of a horse. We don't want to fall off the horse. Stay on, okay? You want to get on the horse, get on the bull, and stay on, so you hold tight and try to stay on. Junior, junior means small or young. We have junior rodeos. I'll show you junior rodeo later. Koromo no rodeo, okay? This is our vocabulary. All right, let me get rid of that vocabulary now. And we'll go back to our rodeo. So, this is our 5th event. It's called barrel racing, but let's write those down. There are 5 rodeo events I told you, and you need to write these down. They're on your test. 1, bull riding. 2, bronc riding. Bronc is a wild horse, a wild horse. Number 3, calf roping. A calf is a baby cow, and you have to take some rope and catch the baby cow. 4, steer wrestling. We'll show a picture of that in a minute. 5, barrel racing. All right, let's look at some of these events. First of all, we're going to look at the Cloverdale Rodeo. That's a lot of. Okay, here's Cloverdale Rodeo. Now we're going to watch this rodeo, and as we watch it, I want you to see there are 5 events. Can you name the 5 events? Can you see them in this rodeo? Let's try.
Well, I'm a firm believer in rodeo. On that, they settled in the West. They settled it with cattle and by farm, and rodeo's kind of the last vestige out of heritage like that. You really just don't see those kind of sporting events or situations that allow the cowboy to show back up to town and show what he's worth.
Okay, they have 4 events. Okay, what is this? Do you know the name of it? So that is bull riding. This is barrel racing. This is bronc riding. Bronc riding. Wild horse. There's a bronc riding. Now notice this man riding this. He has no saddle. A saddle is a little seat on top of the bronc. And some bronc riding have a saddle, and the man sits on the saddle, but he does not hold anything. He has to just stay on the horse without holding anything. The other one has no saddle. Okay, so some have saddles and some have no saddles. If they have no saddle, it's called bareback riding, bareback. If they have a saddle, it's called saddleback riding. Here we go.
For 8 seconds. When you match this caliber of competition against the Kesslers and the Bucking horses,
oh, this is pretty wild.
It's the playoffs, it's the World Series, it is the All-Star game when it comes to competitors. The cream has come to the top. They're the best that there is. This gives you an opportunity to sell tickets.
Bareback
Every time we crack a case,
bronc riding.
be good.
There we go. Woo, wow, that was really exciting.
Down in the States, they talk about the Cloverdale Rodeo. It's just one of those real Western type rodeos.
There's
like I say, it's going to be
bull
jam-packed
riding.
full of
Very
excitement.
dangerous,
Rough
very
stock rodeo.
powerful.
What else could you ask for?
Barrel riding. All right, we'll talk about these, each one of these in just a minute here. Okay, we're not going to be able to talk about all of the rodeo today, but we'll talk about a couple of them, 2 out of the 5, and then next week we'll finish. There are 5 types of rodeo events, and let's talk first of all about bronc riding. Now, bronc riding is riding a wild horse. No one has ever ridden this horse before. So if you get on his back, he gets angry and he tries to throw you from his back. The horse is put into a box, okay? And the box is like a square fence, and the horse cannot move. And the rider sits on the horse, and then the rider has to put his feet on top of the horse. Let's see if we can get this. Okay, so there's a picture of the man. You see the cowboy? This is called the chute. It's a big box, and the horse is in the chute. Now, the man has to sit on top of the horse, and he has to put his one hand in the air and not touch the horse. Let's see if you can see my hand here. Okay, so he's going to sit on the horse. He's going to put one hand in the air. The other hand, he's going to hold on to the horse with, okay? And then they're going to let go of the horse. They're going to open the fence, open the door of the chute. The horse is going to run out and just go crazy and jump and try to shake that man so he's off of his back. And that man has to keep his hand in the air, and he has to ride the wild horse, and he only has to stay on for 8 seconds. 8 seconds. If he can stay on for 8 seconds, he's going to make points. And he has to make a beautiful ride. And the person who has the most beautiful ride for 8 seconds is the winner. And I'll try to get you a picture of it. Okay, so this is not, I'm sorry, this is not a very good quality video, but it's such a powerful ride that I wanted to show this one to you. This is a bronc ride, and he has no saddle. So this is a bareback bronc ride. Yeah, you see this man? See how it's like he's dancing with the horse. Beautiful, powerful ride. That is bronc riding. All right. All right, now the next that we have is called the calf roping. A calf is a young cow, a baby cow. And so one rider, you can see here, gets on a horse, and then a calf is released from the chute. And the calf tries to run away, but the rider chases him. Let's see if we got here. The rider chases him, and that's actually a woman rider here. Usually women do not do this because women are usually not strong enough. Usually only men do this, but women can. The rider then throws a rope and he catches the calf's feet, and the calf falls down. Then the rider jumps off of the horse and grabs the calf, picks the calf up. See, usually it takes a man. Some women are strong enough. Picks the calf up and then ties 3 legs. There's 1 leg, 2 legs, 3 legs, and he has to take the rope and wrap it around the 3 legs, tie it, boom, and he puts his hands in the air. When he puts his hands in the air, he knows he's finished, and the judges count his time. Okay? Calf roping is very exciting, very difficult. It takes a lot of strength to pick up that calf, put him down, and tie his feet. Let's see if we can see. Okay, let's see an example of calf roping. Here we go. There we go. Wow. I don't know why we're not getting any sound here. Let me just see a minute. Everything okay? All right, well, let's continue. So you can see that the rider is very fast. Now he has to wait and see if the calf doesn't move. If the calf doesn't move, then he gets his points. But if the calf can get away, he doesn't get points. Here's another one. Now what they do is they count the number of seconds that it takes to catch the calf and tie him. How many seconds? If it's very few seconds, they get more points. There he goes. Now he has to wait and see if the cow doesn't move. If the cow doesn't move, he gets points. There we go. No, he can't move, so the man gets points. And here's the champion, Jim Ross Cooper from New Mexico. Okay, be really fast and catch that calf, jump, throw him down, 3 feet, tie, and finished. There you go. He was number 1. He won the prize for the day. That is calf roping. Calf roping is fun, but it can be dangerous. You can hurt yourself. All right. All right, we're going to stop today and we're going to take a little quiz. I want you to take a quiz based on the sports that we've studied so far. Next week, we're going to finish our rodeo and hope that you'll really enjoy bull riding. That's a lot of fun. Okay, so you're finished now. Please go to Google Classroom, check for a quiz, day 3 quiz. Take that quiz, and then you'll be finished for today. Thank you very much. Goodbye.